The alarming reason society is dumbing down and you don't see it. Have you ever sensed that something is quietly slipping away from our world, something essential, something invisible, something deeply human? It's not intelligence in the traditional sense. We still have geniuses. We still have breathtaking innovation. We still have access to more information than any generation in history. And yet, despite all that, it feels like we're getting dumber. Not because our brains are shrinking, but because our thinking is, our ability to reason, to reflect, to wrestle with complexity, to hold two opposing ideas in the mind without short-circuiting into rage or apathy, that is what's disappearing. And we don't even see it happening. This isn't a conspiracy. It's not a glitch. It's a slow, deliberate erosion of our inner lives. We are not losing intelligence. We are losing wisdom. And the difference between the two is everything. Intelligence is the ability to process information. Wisdom is the ability to discern meaning. Intelligence can win debates. Wisdom knows when to stay silent. Intelligence builds rockets. Wisdom asks whether we should. And what's terrifying is that we've built a society that worships the former while quietly burying the latter. And it's making us spiritually and intellectually hollow.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
Let me ask you a question so simple it might hurt. When was the last time you changed your mind because you genuinely listened to someone who disagreed with you? Not because you were forced to, not because of social pressure, but because you actually thought about it. If that moment feels rare, you're not alone. We are no longer trained to think, we're trained to react. And the systems we've built, social media, entertainment, even education, aren't designed to cultivate depth. They're designed to keep us engaged, addicted, and distracted. And slowly, without realizing it, we become allergic to thinking. There's a concept from ancient philosophy you've probably never heard, but you feel it in your bones, akrasia, the state of acting against one's better judgment. It's when you know what's right, what's good, what's true, and you still scroll past it, ignore it, or numb it. That's what's happening to us, not just individually, but collectively. We know we're drowning in noise. We know we're consuming more and understanding less. We know our attention spans are collapsing, but we do it anyway. Why? Because the world rewards the shallow, and because the shallow is easier than the soul. You might be thinking, but I'm not dumb. I read books. I watch thoughtful content, and that's good. But this isn't just about you. This is about us. A society is only as wise as the conversations it allows. And right now, most of our public discourse is performative, tribal, and superficial. We've replaced dialogue with dunking. We've replaced inquiry with outrage. We've replaced the pursuit of truth with the performance of certainty. And in that environment, even the smartest minds get pulled downward. Even the thinkers start simplifying their thoughts into sound bites. Even the wise get tired. Here's where it gets really uncomfortable. The dumbing down isn't just happening to the average person. It's happening to leaders, to creators, to influencers, to politicians, to you and me. Because we're all swimming in the same polluted waters. And the more time we spend in these systems designed not to elevate the human spirit, but to monetize our attention, the more our minds begin to mirror the architecture of those systems. Fast, addictive, shallow, emotional, binary. But the scariest part, we don't notice, because the change is gradual. It's not a sudden collapse, it's a slow, numbing decay. Like a frog in boiling water, we adapt to the rising temperature of stupidity until it feels normal. Until we start mistaking popularity for insight. Until we start confusing visibility with virtue. Until we start thinking in slogans instead of sentences, memes instead of metaphors, outrage instead of observation. And yet, there's a part of you that knows. A part of you that aches for something deeper. That longs for real thought, real conversation, real meaning. That's the part of you that hasn't been fully captured yet. The part that still remembers what it feels like to sit in silence and ask a question that doesn't have a quick answer. That still knows how to wonder. That still senses the difference between knowing information and understanding life. So let me ask again, but deeper this time, when did you last think a thought that didn't come from someone else? Not a reaction, not a retweet, not a headline, but a real thought, born from silence and shaped by your own inner wrestling. That's the muscle we're losing. And without it, we become easy to control, easy to distract, easy to divide. Because when people stop thinking, they start following. And when they start following, they stop seeing. The alarming reason society is dumbing down isn't because we've lost access to knowledge. It's because we've lost the will to seek wisdom. We've outsourced our judgment to algorithms. We've traded discernment for dopamine. And we don't even realize what we've lost because the world keeps getting louder and wisdom only speaks in whispers. The inconvenient death of curiosity. Why questions are vanishing from our lives. There was once a time when children asked why not just as a phase, but as a spiritual instinct, a hunger to understand the world, to pierce the mystery. That question, why, was sacred. It was the engine of philosophy, of science, of civilization itself. But look around today, and you'll notice something eerie. The age of answers has replaced the age of questions. We're drowning in facts, flooded with content, and yet we've lost the courage to ask the kinds of questions that don't have neat, tweetable answers. And that, more than any algorithm or political agenda, is why society is dumbing down. Not because we can't find answers, but because we've stopped wanting to. Curiosity is inconvenient. It disrupts comfort. It demands attention. It pulls you away from the dopamine drip of passive consumption and drags you into the unlit corners of your own ignorance. Curiosity doesn't let you stay idle. It pushes you to explore, to challenge, to doubt, not in the cynical sense, but in the sacred sense. It says, what if the truth is deeper than everything I've been taught? But today, that kind of mental rebellion is rare. Not because people are stupid, but because they're saturated. They're so full of shallow information that they don't even feel the hunger for depth anymore. The death of curiosity is subtle. It doesn't look like silence. It looks like noise. It looks like a million YouTube videos with flashy thumbnails that promise everything you need to know in 10 minutes or less. It looks like endless scrolls of interesting facts that leave you feeling entertained but not transformed. It looks like arguments online where nobody is listening, only performing. And slowly we begin to confuse having access to answers with having understanding. But they are not the same thing. Understanding requires time. It requires confusion. It requires the question to breathe. You might be thinking, but I'm curious. I love learning. And maybe you do. But let me ask you this. When was the last time you stayed with a question long enough for it to change you? Not just Googled it, not just clicked a link, but actually lived with it, let it haunt you, stretch you, humble you. Because that's what real questions do. They don't just fill your mind, they break it open. And breaking open is painful. That's why most people avoid it. It's easier to stick with answers, especially the ones that confirm what we already believe. This is why the spiritually and intellectually awake are often misunderstood. Because they don't offer quick conclusions. They offer questions. They live in uncertainty. They dwell in paradox. And in a world addicted to certainty, they look like heretics. But they're not. They're the last protectors of human wonder. They're the ones keeping the fire alive, the fire that says, I don't know, but I want to. That fire is almost gone. Not because it was extinguished, but because we stopped feeding it. The systems we live in do not reward curiosity. They reward compliance. They reward people who pick a side and stay there, who reduce complex problems into simple narratives, who believe what their tribe believes, who ask questions only to prove they already know the answer. But curiosity is not tribal. It's not partisan. It's not predictable. It's disruptive. It will take you places your ego doesn't want to go. That's why it's dangerous. That's why it's sacred. Let me ask you something that might sting. Are you more interested in being right or in being real? Because curiosity doesn't care about your identity. It doesn't care about your brand. It doesn't care how many followers you have. It only cares about truth. And truth is not always flattering. Truth is not always convenient. Sometimes it dismantles everything you thought you were. And that's why so few people truly seek it. And yet, the death of curiosity isn't inevitable. It can be revived, but only by individuals, not systems. Only by people willing to unplug from the noise and return to the ancient art of wondering. People who choose silence over shouting, mystery over certainty, presence over performance. People who are brave enough to say, I don't know, but I want to. That's where real intelligence begins. That's where wisdom is born. So ask yourself now, what question have you been avoiding because the answer might cost you something? That's the question that matters. That's the question that could change your life. but only if you're willing to sit with it, not for a minute, not for a day, but for as long as it takes. The illusion of intelligence. Why knowing more is making you think less. We live in an age where knowledge is no longer earned, it's downloaded. We carry the sum of human information in our pockets, and yet we've never been more uncertain, more divided, more mentally fragmented. Why is that? How can a society that knows so much be thinking so little? The answer is as uncomfortable as it is true, because knowing things is not the same as understanding them. And in our rush to accumulate data, we've traded the slow, painful work of thinking for the instant gratification of surface-level knowing. We've mistaken access for insight, and in doing so, we've created the illusion of intelligence. Let's be brutally honest for a second. Most of us don't think anymore, we consume. We scroll, skim, react, and repeat. We gather factoids and headlines, we memorize talking points, we echo opinions that align with our identity groups, and we call that intelligence. But true intelligence isn't about having the right answer, it's about asking the right question, especially when the answer threatens your sense of self. And that's terrifying to most people. Because it means letting go of the illusion that you already know. There's a term in philosophy that captures this perfectly. Epistemic humility, the recognition of how little we actually know and how easily we can be wrong. It's the foundation of wisdom. But today, we are trained to do the opposite. We are trained to present ourselves as certain, confident, and unshakable even when we're standing on foundations we've never actually examined. We weaponize facts to defend beliefs we've never questioned. We gather knowledge not to expand our minds but to shield our egos. And in that process we lose something crucial, the ability to think deeply. Real thinking is slow, it's messy, it's full of doubt. It requires you to sit in silence, to entertain ideas that make you uncomfortable, to hold contradictions without collapsing into defensiveness. It requires space. But modern life doesn't give you space. It gives you speed, constant stimulation, constant input. We binge podcasts, books, videos, not to digest and reflect, but to feel productive, to feel informed. But here's the paradox. The more you consume without reflection, the less you understand. Because thinking isn't about input. It's about processing. And most of us are so overloaded that we've lost the ability to digest what we've taken in. Have you ever read a book or watched a video and then, hours later, realized you couldn't recall anything meaningful from it? That's not because you're dumb. It's because your mental bandwidth is full. It's because your mind is so overstimulated that it never had the stillness required to turn that information into insight. And this is the trap of modern intelligence. We know more than ever, but we understand less. We consume more than ever, but we reflect less. And in that gap, wisdom dies. Let me ask you something uncomfortable. When was the last time you sat with a single idea for more than a day? Not a news story, not a meme. A single idea, a concept, a question, a paradox, and just thought about it. Let it change you. Let it challenge your worldview. Let it linger. That's the kind of thinking that gives birth to transformation. But it's almost extinct, because it's not profitable, it's not entertaining. It doesn't go viral. The illusion of intelligence is dangerous because it creates a false sense of security. It convinces you that you're awake when you're actually sleepwalking through borrowed beliefs. It makes you feel informed while keeping you intellectually passive. And worst of all, it closes the door to growth. Because if you already know, why would you question? Why would you explore? Why would you change? And this is where we must confront a brutal truth. Much of what we call intelligence today is just performance. It's intellectual posturing. It's people quoting philosophers they've never truly read. It's the regurgitation of ideas without the digestion of meaning. And beneath all of it is fear of not knowing, fear of being seen as unintelligent. But the truly wise, the ones who have actually thought, are not afraid of uncertainty. They're afraid of illusion. They're afraid of self-deception. Because they know that the mind, left unchecked, will always choose comfort over truth. So I'll leave you with this. What if the most intelligent thing you could do was to admit everything you don't know? What if true intelligence isn't about how much you've learned, but how much you're willing to unlearn? What if the real thinkers are not the loudest, but the quietest, the ones who are still wrestling, still wondering, still open? That's the kind of intelligence the world needs now. Not more knowledge. Not more certainty, but more honest thinking. The silent collapse of attention, how losing focus is destroying depth in our lives. There's a quiet tragedy unfolding all around us, and most of us don't even see it happening. It's not loud like a war or dramatic like a revolution. It's silent, invisible, and internal. And yet, it's unraveling the very fabric of what makes us human. It's the collapse of attention, not just the ability to concentrate, but the ability to be present, to stay with something long enough that it begins to shape you. We're not just losing our focus. We're losing our connection to depth, to meaning, to the parts of life that don't reveal themselves instantly. And if we keep going down this path, we won't even remember what we've lost. Attention is more than a skill. It's a spiritual act. It's the gateway to contemplation, to love, to learning, to awe. Without attention, nothing can truly grow, not relationships, not wisdom, not the soul. But we now live in an environment designed to destroy it. Our devices, our apps, our feeds, they are engineered not to inform us, but to fragment us, to keep our minds bouncing from one thing to the next so quickly that we never land on anything long enough for it to matter. And the more distracted we become, the more shallow our lives feel, even if they're filled with stimulation. Have you noticed how hard it is to read a full article now? Or to watch a video without skipping ahead? Or to have a conversation without checking your phone? These aren't just bad habits. They're symptoms of a deeper disease, a mind that's losing its capacity to dwell. And without dwelling, there is no depth. Without dwelling, there is no wisdom. Without dwelling, we skim across the surface of life like stones, never sinking in, never touching the bottom. Let me ask you something that might hit close to home. When was the last time you gave something or someone your full, undivided attention? No multitasking, no background noise, no inner rush to move on. Just pure presence. If that moment feels rare, you're not alone. Most of us are now so overstimulated that silence feels like a threat. Stillness feels like boredom. And boredom feels like failure. But what if boredom isn't the problem? What if boredom is the doorway? What if it's only when your mind stops racing that life finally has a chance to speak? The collapse of attention is not just a personal issue, it's a civilizational crisis. Because a distracted society is a manipulable society. When people can't focus, they can't think. When they can't think, they can't question. When they can't question, they can't resist. And when they can't resist, they become easy to control, easy to sell to, easy to scare, easy to divide. That's not a glitch in the system. It is the system. The economy of distraction is more profitable than the cultivation of depth. And we are the product. But here's the hopeful part. Attention can be rebuilt, slowly, intentionally, like a muscle that's been weakened but not destroyed. You can reclaim your focus not by force, but by returning. Returning to silence, returning to slowness, returning to the parts of life that don't scream for your attention but wait for it. A sunset, a conversation, a difficult book, a lingering question. These are not luxuries. They are necessities. They are the environments where the soul grows. So let me leave you with the most important question yet. What in your life is waiting for your full attention to finally come alive? Maybe it's a person. Maybe it's a truth. Maybe it's a calling you've buried under years of noise. Whatever it is, it's still there, silent, patient, enduring. And it's not asking for perfection. It's asking for presence, for focus, for you. Because in the end, the depth you seek, the meaning, the wisdom, the realness, isn't somewhere out there in the noise. It's waiting in the stillness. And all it wants is your attention. If this message resonated with you, don't just like or scroll. Pause, breathe, reflect. Ask yourself, what am I giving my attention to, and is it worthy of my soul?